There are several types of eye contact that indicate love. If you often see these types of eye contact from a woman, it means that the woman is attracted to you, even though she looks ignorant or unconcerned. 1. Repeated gaze. A repeated gaze occurs when a woman is unconscious or deliberately saw you several times in a certain time interval. If he does it repeatedly, it can be a sign that he is interested and wants to pay attention to you longer, but may feel ashamed or hesitant to stare directly for a long time. According to Triangular Theory of Love by Robert Sternberg, there are three main elements in relationships: emotional closeness, passion, and commitment. Repeated gaze can be the initial sign of intimacy, where a person begins to build a sense of emotional interest in others. In addition, in research on gaze behavior, it was found that someone is more likely to pay attention to individuals who attract their attention or who have certain emotional appeal. Social psychologist Zick Rubin also found that people who are interested in each other will make eye contact more often than those who have no interest. If you realize that he often looks at you, try to return his gaze and see whether he maintains eye contact or even turning shyly. If he still sees or smiles after a repeated look, it can be a strong sign that he is indeed interested in you. 2. The gaze is longer than usual. A gaze that lasts longer than usual is one of the clearest signs of interest in nonverbal communication. If a woman looks at you more than 3 seconds before turning, it can show an emotional or romantic interest. This gaze is often accompanied by a soft facial expression or a little smile, which further strengthens the indication that he has an interest in you. In psychology, this phenomenon is explained by nonverbal courtship theory from Monica M. Moore, which states that a longer eye gaze is one of the nonverbal strategies used in the early stages of interest and romantic approach. Moore found that in social interaction, someone who was interested tends to use eye contact as a way to create connections without having to talk directly. In addition, research in the field of interpersonal attraction shows that when someone is attracted, they are longer to maintain eye contact with people who attract their attention. Dr. Arthur Aaron, in his experiment about intimacy, finding that staring at someone for a long time can increase feelings of emotional attachment and can even foster feelings of love. This is because intense eye gaze can increase the release of oxytocin, hormones associated with emotional bonds. Longer gaze can also be a form of subconscious exploration. Women who are interested may want to better understand your facial expressions and body language to read the response or emotions that you show. If this gaze is accompanied by an enlarged pupil, it is a biological indication that he really has an interest, because the pupil widens naturally when someone sees something or someone they think of interesting. If you catch this kind of gaze, reply with a smile or maintain eye contact in a few seconds can be a way to show that you are also interested. However, if this gaze feels too intense and repeatedly happens, it could be a sign that he really admires you and wants to build further connections. 3. A short look then smile. A brief look followed by a smile is one of the most common signals of interest in nonverbal communication. If a woman looks at you briefly, then smiles before turning her eyes off, it shows that she wants to give a positive signal without too openly. A smile in this context usually appears naturally and is not an ordinary polite smile, but a warmer and sincere smile. In psychology, this behavior can be explained through facial feedback hypothesis proposed by James Laird. This hypothesis states that facial expressions not only reflect one's emotions, but can also strengthen these emotions. When a woman stares and smiles, she is actually expressing positive feelings that could appear because of her interest in you. In addition, the theory of Albert Mehrabian about nonverbal communication shows that more than 90% of human communication is nonverbal, and a combination of eye gaze with a smile is one of the most effective forms of communication to show interest. A smile after eye contact can also be a form of subconscious reflexes that show comfort and openness in social interaction. Women who do this gaze may want to show their interest in a subtle interest without making themselves too vulnerable. Sometimes, after the first smile, he will try to avoid eye contact repeatedly as a way to hide his feelings, but if he continues to repeat this pattern, there is a most likely he is interested. If you want to know whether this short gaze and smile is a real sign of interest, pay attention to whether he does it more than once or whether he tries to build further interaction, for example by staying near you or looking for ways to talk to you. 4. The gaze of the angle of the eye. The gaze of the eye angle is a form of eye contact that often occurs when someone tries to pay attention to someone without wanting to be seen too clearly. If a woman often steals a glance from the side and then quickly avert her eyes when you realize it, this can be a sign that she is interested in you but feels ashamed, doubtful, or not ready to show her interest directly. From the perspective of evolutionary psychology, David Buss in Evolutionary Psychology, the New Science of the Mind explains that humans, especially women, have a tendency to use nonverbal signals that are finer in attracting the attention of the opposite sex. The eyes of the eye angle are one way to observe someone who attracts attention without having to openly show interest, which can be a more mysterious defense or seductive strategy mechanism. Biologically, when someone is attracted, his brain releases dopamine, hormones related to feelings of pleasure and interest. This can cause someone to reflexively want to see the object of interest more often, although they consciously try to hide it. In the theory of nonverbal communication, Desmond Morris, an anthropologist and human ethologist, explains that the way a person stares can reflect his intentions and feelings. The eyes of the eye angle are often categorized as part of the flirtation behavior, especially if followed by supporting facial expressions, such as small smiles or curious expressions. If a woman often sees you from the corner of the eye, but turns away when you turn around, try to pay attention to whether she does it more than once. If this happens repeatedly, most likely he has an interest but is still doubtful or wants to see if you also pay attention. If you want to find out further, returning that look with a smile can be a way to test the response. 5. Eye enlarged. When someone is attracted to something or someone, his eyes will naturally widen unconsciously. If a woman looks at you with a pupil that looks bigger than usual, it can be a sign that she has an emotional or romantic interest in you. This phenomenon is explained in the study of papillometry by Eckhard Hess, a psychologist who found that widening of pupils is a natural response to visual and emotional attractiveness. When someone sees something interesting, the sympathetic nervous system will respond by dilating pupils to capture more visual information. In the context of interest, the greater the appeal, the greater the widening of the pupils that occur. In addition, according to arousal theory, widening of pupils is also associated with increased physiological passion. This means that if a woman is attracted to you, her brain will activate this response as part of a biological mechanism that shows her interest. Research also shows that humans unconsciously prefer people with larger pupils because they are considered as a sign of warmth and interest. In a study by Hess and Polt 1960, participants are more likely to consider the face with widening pupils as more attractive than the face that has a small pupil. However, widening of pupils can be influenced by lighting, so it is important to pay attention to the context. If a woman is in the same lighting condition and her pupils appear to be enlarged when talking or looking at you, it can be an indicator of a pretty strong interest. If this is accompanied by facial expressions that show interest, such as a little smile or maintain eye contact longer, then most likely he is really interested in you. 6. Gaze to lips. If a woman often averted her eyes from your eyes to your lips when speaking or when silent, this can be a sign of deeper interest. This gaze shows that he is not only emotionally interested but also has a physical and romantic interest. In psychology, this behavior can be explained through kinesics, which is the study of body movements and facial expressions in nonverbal communication. According to research conducted by Alan Pease, a bodily expert, when someone often sees the lips of his interlocutor, it can be an indication of interest and unconscious that they are imagining more intimate interactions, such as kissing. In addition, the theory of the mirror neuron system states that humans tend to unconsciously imitate or pay attention to the part of the body of someone who is most attractive. If a woman is attracted to you, her eyes may naturally be attracted to your lips, which is a symbol of intimacy and attraction in interpersonal communication. From the point of view of evolutionary psychology, David Buss explained that humans have the instinct to read nonverbal interest signals, and gaze to the lips is one indicator that someone feels comfortable and wants to be closer. If you catch this sign, try to pay attention to how he reacts when you speak. If he keeps looking at your lips, maybe he unconsciously expresses his interest. Reply with deep eye contact or smile can be a way to test whether he is really interested and wants to continue interaction to a deeper level. Those are some types of eye contact that indicate love. Now the question is, does the woman you love showing eye contact like this when talking to you? Don't be shy to tell your interesting experience in the comments column.